I'm a little bit behind the 8 ball. Apparently there's this documentary that's been out since 2020 or 2021. The series is called Unwell. They talk about fasting, so I wanted to do a reaction about this hour-long segment. I didn't like the fact that they were putting it in the same boat as essential oils and breast milk for athletes and like a Amway pyramid scheme. I mean, fasting is supposed to be free, right? So how can you corrupt this?
Intermittent fasting is the latest craze in dieting and popular among biohackers.
I'm not sure why Silicon tech entrepreneur Jeffrey Wu was featured here, but we start with him, and he does bring up an interesting point. And no, we're not related.
It was kind of hard to do it individually because you lack that social interaction. And what really made it fun and sustainable was realizing you could create a community and a culture on fasting together.
So I think this is huge. A large part of our food consumption is a social affair, right? And partaking in it is in itself a positive therapeutic. So I don't know, maybe we should like pick a date. Maybe once a quarter where we all break our fast together. That way we can sort of choose whatever length we want to fast for, but we all refeed together somewhere. I don't know. Next we meet writer Thomas Stackpole, who experiments with weight loss diets. He noted he was always hungry when he ate vegan, and now after some fasting experience, questions if he has an eating disorder.
What is the difference between those two impulses if the end result looks very similar?
I've questioned my own motives at times and think there can be this like fine line between fasting and an eating disorder. I think it would be smart to take a similar eating disorder screening test just to see how risky something like fasting could be for you in this regard. For me, on average, fasting has given me a healthier, more grateful attitude towards food with a more parsimonious taste for what I like.
Some people do have tremendous benefits on really any diet you can think of. But that doesn't mean that it's going to be effective for everyone. And in fact, fasting may well be very harmful.
Okay, so here's the first person that really rubs me the wrong way. Let's see, fear-based, global, and ambiguous statements about a powerful and nuanced modality? Check. I mean, you can say the same about exercise, right? How about a statement from me like, registered dietitians like Christy have had tremendous benefits for many people, but that doesn't mean they're going to be effective for everyone. And in fact, her words may be very harmful.
I tend to sort of think of like feast or famine, where I get a lot of pleasure when I'm like gorging, but I still feel guilty about it. And then it sort of swings back the other way where I'm like, now I need to fast to reset and detox.
Okay, so there's a good chunk of us who turn to fasting to lose weight. However, our root causes are varied, and we realize the additional benefits that this person ignores. So to what degree is she feasting and fasting? How much does this bleed into her social life and daily moods? And how much weight is she actually fluctuating? I can pretty much say my behavior is exactly the same as hers, but it's for a few days that I go off the wagon, maybe about 4 times a year, and I do use fasting as a tool to rebalance. So am I harming myself with these bouts of poor nutrition when I eat cake? Or in a way, could it be a useful exposure, not unlike exercise, hot sauna, ice baths, or vaccines, right? Robustness is created by contrasting dynamics like weightlifting followed by rest.
So I practice an approach called intuitive eating. Intuitive eating is a practice of relating to food and your body in a really intrinsic, natural way.
Oh, you know, I got to take my statements back completely. She has a global solution for us that she created and, you know, might be invested in. She goes on about how she teaches people how to eat when they're hungry and how to identify subtle hunger cues, like if you're annoyed or have difficulty concentrating. You know, basically, if you're, I don't know, a breathing human being, be careful. You just might be hungry. Sounds like a Snickers commercial. So, does she define the difference between hunger cravings and starvation signals? How does she factor in Ghrellin's effect and hormonal curve during a fast? What about stress levels? All right, listen, if we are overweight, then maybe there's this pattern that we need to unlearn, and maybe her client has an eating disorder, but I don't want her subtle signs list of hunger to enhance my own capacity to find an excuse, you know, just to eat a tub of ice cream. So just give me the red alert signals instead.
Diets tell us like, oh, you'll just lose the weight and keep it off. But the problem is that every time we cycle, it actually puts our health at greater risk, and it also increases the chances of higher weight regain. And in fact, up to 98% of people who lose weight intentionally end up regaining all of it back within 5 years. So I would not say fasting is an effective strategy for weight loss.
No details on why she thinks cycles are unhealthy. Nature's all about cycles. Look at the seasons. More importantly, that stat is misleading without specificity. 98% of people who lose weight intentionally, that doesn't specify people who fast. Like, well, what is this study? What their nutritional profile looks like. Can we have that information? To me, this is more reflective of your typical calorie in, calorie out results, diet and exercise methods that can have a greater and long-term detriment to one's basal metabolic rate. I was 300 pounds and I've been under 200 since like 2017. And I've centered around time-restricted feeding with sporadic periods of extended fasts and basically just eliminating sugars. But I am just one, so I would never say that this is what you should do, just as much as she probably shouldn't say that this is something you shouldn't do.
This is not something to play fast and loose with.
Ha.
Not eating anything for weeks, months. It's really dangerous and not something I would recommend.
You have to say why. You have to ask why. Don't trust her, but don't trust me either. If you're seriously interested, you need to do your own research and weigh your own risks. Are you 100 pounds with limited fat stores and some underlying disease? Does the growth feed off glycogen or ketones? Are you currently on meds? Are you going to fast for 30 days and then refeed with like a 4,000 calorie pizza injection?
The TruNorth Health Center is a residential healthcare facility. We're one of the few places that people can...
We meet Alan Goldhammer, who is a chiropractor and runs a fasting facility.
People think that if they get on a plane in New York and they were to fly all the way to California, they would starve to death somewhere over Colorado. However, it is really remarkable what an amazing job the body can do at healing itself if you just get out of the way.
All right, powerful statement. TruNorth is pretty big. I've heard of them before. Their refeeding process doesn't make sense to me though, so I don't know, maybe more on that later. I'm really hoping that everyone out there is having a great start to the new year, and I'd also like to take some time to thank the great people over at Skillshare and the really fantastic people I've met through them. The reason I love Skillshare stems from the fact that I just get thirsty to learn stuff. If you don't know, it's an online learning community that can teach you a bunch of new skills. I plan on investing more into myself this year, and I think everyone should too. Most of the things I know have been sort of self-taught. Tedious time lost through reading text, trial and error. I never really had something like Skillshare, and definitely would have loved its interface and search options. I'm actually still trying to learn some magic tricks, and Jeremy Tan has his Learn Card Magic workshop. This guy is excellent. He's very good with sleights and cards, and he teaches things like the shake change. The platform is, of course, more than for creatives. Yes, there are great classes like for photography, graphic design, and painting, but I found a lot more like business development, mental and physical health. Want to be a YouTuber? Or learn the fundamentals of cooking? They got that too. I think it's a pretty great resource if you're thinking about a career pivot, career growth, or starting a new side hustle. Skillshare is ad-free with new premium classes launching weekly, and yes, the first 1,000 people to use this link in the description will get a 1-month free trial of Skillshare. They say that knowledge is power, and at least to me, free is awesome, so I say, why not join today?
Water fasting is too dangerous.
This is Lynae Chambers, whose husband suffered an unfortunate accident while on stay at another fasting clinic. She describes him as physically strong and healthy, but recent digestive issues spurred his interest into fasting.
What he had resembled what people describe as a leaky gut syndrome.
No offense, but why is this skinny person wanting to use extended fasting for leaky gut syndrome? Some evidence has shown that beneficial bacteria in our gut survives longer than harmful ones. Fasting can create a more favorable balance in our gut flora, but this is not the typical course of action to address leaky gut. I was diagnosed with it, and from my experience at internal medicine, the focus is to introduce diversity to the microbiota by ingesting more pro and prebiotic foods. So again, he kind of looks like he has low BMI to begin with. So why is he being accepted into this facility in the first place? For An extended fast for, of all reasons, increased intestinal permeability. I mean, just eat sauerkraut, kimchi, and fibrous rainbow-colored vegetables to start. Don't do a freaking 30-day fast. I don't know, I just think you should attack the less risky, low-hanging fruit stuff first. They settled on this so-called Tanglewood fasting facility.
There wasn't anything bad that came up.
Hi, I'm Lauren Lockman. I'm the director of the Tanglewood Wellness Center.
First of all, the audio sucks, so I automatically discredit him. I'm an AV snob, so I don't know. What can I say? She says he was down to 92.5 pounds and was starting the refeeding process when things took a turn for the worse. You really have to be careful and take refeeding slow, for sure, and serious, with a positive, linear timeline, somewhat mirroring the length of your fast. Right? I mean, it just makes sense. So if you fast for 30 days, don't start a refeed and, I don't know, eat KFC by like the third day. If I was going to be super conservative for a 30-day fast, and I did, and I was, I would probably take 2, 3, maybe even 4 weeks to reintroduce foods to a commensurate pre-fast amount. To me, enforcing this also sort of reinforces this new relationship to food that I have after a long fast. So take refeeding slowly.
There's actually something called refeeding syndrome. Their electrolyte levels basically get all out of whack when they start eating food again. And that can have really detrimental effects. People end up triggering depression, triggering anxiety, or at extreme levels, it can cause loss of consciousness. Suddenly people can go into cardiac arrest. People die.
You should be monitoring your electrolyte levels the longer into a fast you go, especially, and is why refeeding with bone broth is generally a good idea. It's high in fat and has, minerals leached from the bones along with glutathione. So, wake up the gut and stabilize your electrolytes, or just drink the broth during your fast rather than, water, just to be safe, especially if you're new to this. Unless you wanted to maximize autophagic activity. Lynae describes her husband's bizarre behavior during refeeding, saying from which he was able to piece together, he started taking off all his clothes during mealtime and wanted to leave. Tanglewood, unable to convince him to stay, got him instead to spend the night unsupervised at a nearby hotel.
They had found him at the bottom of an outdoor set of concrete stairs with severe head trauma. His death was negligence on the part of the Tanglewood Center.
What a terrible and preventable loss. It's just not an issue with fasting to me. It's an issue with this Tanglewood Fasting Center.
Most fasting centers, if you contact them and say, I've got stage 4 cancer, they'll say, sorry, we can't take you, because they don't want to have someone dying. But if my goal was to help people, how could I turn down the people who most need my help?
Well, you can't if a large part of your incentive is to make money off these people.
I truly believe the body can heal from virtually anything if they fast long enough.
I also have some snake oil that I'd like to sell to you. It's just one easy payment of $19.99. Or just 3 easy payments of $12. Your choice.
Our youngest client fast was a 2-year-old who was born with a heart defect, fasted 5 days and was off medication for the first time in his life.
Ugh, a 2-year-old? Come on, get the F out of here. With claims like this, you gotta cite specific data and circumstances. Dude is just coming off like a schemer to me with his hyperbolic statements.
We've had groups of blind people fast with us, every one of whom saw amazing improvements in their vision. Arthritis, 50+ women with breast cancer. 90% of these cases, the tumors have disappeared and the body was able to do it all by itself.
What vital signs would indicate a person would need to stop their fast?
Excellent question. Let's see how he answers it.
Well, it's okay if your blood pressure is real low, or if your pulse is real high, or if it's okay. All we have to do, in most cases, is simply watch and wait. We don't have a doctor on staff.
All right, excuse my language, but that answer is such bullshit. If the business is client motivated, it will have parameters for blood pressure and emergency medical staff, not this laissez-faire, it'll work itself out attitude. Also, are they screening for mental and physical diagnoses that could potentiate the riskier aspects of a long fast or vice versa? Like, how can the lack of these elements not be a monetary decision on this freaking jerk's part? Well, All right, in all fairness, maybe he's actually supremely knowledgeable and expert in this field and all health matters.
Let's get a look at your tongue. That's impressive. Your temperature is, what is that, a 2? Temperature's down. Are you doing okay with water?
Yeah, doing better today.
Okay, good. Let's take a look at your tongue. Yeah. Okay. It's a lovely tongue.
It's a lovely tongue.
Doing all right?
Well, actually, no.
What's going on?
When I stood up, I felt a bit more,
Wobbly?
Yeah, a bit wobbly.
Okay.
This is my second time fasting. The last time on day 18, I actually fell, so you see that scar?
Blood pressure always comes down with fasting. And so the greatest potential danger for people is that they pass out and hurt themselves when they fall. Now, fortunately, most people collapse. They don't fall like a tree. They just collapse. They don't usually hurt themselves very badly.
WTF. So you know this, and you just think, oh, well, they usually fall a certain way. I know someone who was otherwise healthy and fell in his bathroom and died recently. So look, this guy, decreased blood pressure is an almost universal byproduct of extended fasts. Are you monitoring and are you supplementing with the proper electrolytes to, help keep this in check to the best of your ability? If I'm going to pay for a facility to assist in my fast, they should be doing all these things.
Not only did they not do anything, they took him to a hotel and left him there alone.
I don't know what we could have done. I mean, I didn't know his intention. I didn't know any. He had been acting a bit crazy, but he still seemed sane enough to. I don't think he died because he fasted. I don't think he died because of his ReFeeding. I think he died because he hit his head on the floor. I mean, people can fall and hit their head anytime. Anywhere.
I think Napoleon is cited having said something like, never interrupt your enemy while they are in the process of destroying themselves. So, I mean, look at him. Zero accountability, and admits his client wasn't acting normal in his care, and then decides to let him walk out after showing these symptoms.
We've been accused of somehow being responsible for this. I'm not really sure how that's the case.
Unapologetically unprepared and unremorseful. Double bad, since this wasn't like a TMZ style ENG interview, yet he is still woefully underprepared, evident by this ignorant narrative.
Do I feel strongly about this? Yeah. If I get a call tomorrow from God and God says, Lauren, you've got the wrong diet, I'll say, thanks for your opinion, I'm good.
I really hate this low-rent Marshall Applewhite now. Your association gives fasting a bad name. That last statement just... When you exclude yourself from dialogue, just steadfast in your own convictions, you sort of exclude yourself from your own growth. All the green plants, wicker chairs, and collarless button-downs can't hide his dim way of thinking. That's a small man. And beware those who claim that they can make you better.
If water-only fasting isn't done in a medically supervised setting, it absolutely could be dangerous. Skin rashes, then you may feel weak or have sleep disruption or vivid dreams or nightmares.
I have a question for you. When you're on the fast, you have to not shower, not stand up. The hot showers, I guess, and don't stand up.
You could become faint and fall and hurt yourself. Just too rapid a return to feeding can actually result in very serious health consequences. Part of the benefits of being in a medically supervised setting is we're able to properly monitor.
I'm glad TruNorth emphasizes a slow refeeding process, but it still doesn't make sense to me that you'd want to immediately stress your fat-adapted body with starches that easily convert to sugar, along with not easily digestible fibers. So if you want to ramp slowly, shouldn't the sequence of reintegration be fats first, then protein, then low sugar pro and prebiotics, then a diversity of colorful leafy vegetables, then fruit, then starchy carbs, and if need be sugar? I mean, in a way, it's the opposite order of what your body first depletes for energy, right? So to me, that's a ramp. And refeeding with watermelon is kind of like a risky spike.
I don't think the extended fasts that some people do are safe even under so-called medical supervision. When people are in a state of deprivation, like they are with fasting, their body's metabolism tends to slow down in order to conserve energy. We see this in people with severe anorexia, and functions will go offline, like their skin might get really dry, their hair might start falling out.
Anorexia is not fasting. Stop conflating the two, and not all fasting protocols result in the same level of metabolic downregulation, let alone when in comparison to anorexia or, CICO.
So cancer, for example, it actually can exacerbate existing tumors that can cause cancer that was already developing to worsen.
Why fearmonger and completely disregard the possible potentiative effects of fasting during chemotherapy and preferential breakdown of cancerous, glycogen-fueled cells? Could it have the opposite effect on growths that survive on ketones? Yeah, sure, maybe. And I don't know. And it's a concern. But there are plenty of people with more training that dare not make such global statements as she, full well knowing you can't disregard a powerful tool that someone might use improperly. Again, if the motive is for her clients to improve their health, you kind of have to welcome the nuances that make us all different.
Extreme situations when people have been fasting for a long time, they can end up actually catabolizing or eating their own organs. I would not recommend anyone go on a water fast or go anywhere near water fasting.
Yeah, sure, but anyone who walks outside for long enough has increased and higher probability of getting hit by a car too, right? I mean, you have to state under what circumstances that this scenario is possible. Do they have low BMI with limited fat stores, fasting for 40 days? Well, then, yeah, they are more likely to experience the catabolization of organ tissue. But fasting is also time-restricted eating. And if I'm 30 pounds above, the low BMI cutoff, otherwise healthy, I'm generally not tripping off of a 3-day fast. These details matter.
I was diagnosed with mantle cell lymphoma. I went looking for something outside of the conventional chemotherapy that I could do. Most of it was bullshit until I came across very obscure research about fasting in combination with chemotherapy. So for 5 days during every round of chemo, I drank nothing but water. When you're in the hospital, they'll give you chicken fingers and pizza and orange sherbet, and then they encourage you to keep the weight on. That's what they tell cancer patients.
Yeah, food selection in general doesn't make sense in hospitals. Why isn't there a better standard in, of all places, where we go to get healthier?
I had been given a protocol of 6 rounds of chemo, and after the second round of chemotherapy, doing these 5-day fasts, I went in for my scan, and I was declared cancer-free after 2 of 6 rounds. Every quarter, I try to do a 5-day water-only fast. On top of that, I pretty much do daily fasts of 16 to 18 hours every single day. I'm usually fasting in the morning, and a lot of science is out there that says that coffee will not break my fast, and I choose to listen to that science.
All right, I'm a fan of this guy. I admittedly pick and choose which science that I choose to listen to also. I mean, I like black coffee, so find a paper, say it's okay, research over. I'm just kidding, but it is kind of hard and time consuming to go down, these rabbit holes and not just parse through the settings of the trials, but learn the language as well as the history and possible conflicts of interest by the authors. Can we get one more person that's well known in the fasting field who's, not as didactic as that lady? Maybe preferably someone I've met in real life? Did I just DHV you with that last line to set up the next scene?
My laboratory has been doing research of fasting for 30 years now. I always say fasting is a word similar to eating. We moved away from just saying, eating is good or eating is bad. Of course, it depends what you eat, how much of it you eat. And that's the same way with fasting. With fasting, you can cure mice with type 2 diabetes, mice with multiple sclerosis, mice with cancer. In fact, we discovered if we treated mice with cancer with chemotherapy, and some in combination with fasting, 100% of the animals that were on a normal diet die, and 100% of the animals that were on the fasting diet survived. And so the potential is great, but these are mice.
Thank you for being sensible. Thank you for being sensible. Oof. I'm gonna get canceled. And thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe if you haven't, or, you know, if you want to. I have had tremendous benefits for many people, but, you know, that doesn't mean I'm going to be effective for everyone. And in fact, my face may be very harmful to your eyeballs. That works for everything.